Hello, dear friend, and welcome. This morning I woke up sad and depressed. Basically, I'm struggling to understand what is it that I must create so that you and others joyfully participate in helping to promote teaching America's children how to memorize and how to create. So I thought, well, thankfully a few days ago my charger showed up for my Kindle, and I've always been mindful of Robert Fritz's book Elements, short chapters to help inspire us, to help guide us back to the creative process, to help shift our focus from woe is me problem solving to creating. What I like about the Kindle is it highlights just the short chapters of Robert's book, 1 page, 2 page, 3.5 pages. And on the second page, if this will help you to hang in for this reading, it's not the actual forms in our lives that are deadening us. Rather, it's the moments when we lose touch with why we are doing what we are doing. A hypnosis, a trance, a state of mindlessness that removes us from reality. It is losing touch with the holiness of life. Robert Fritz writes like no one else writes. So I thought, what a better way to share about this wonderful author. I think it'd be a little easier for me to read from the actual book. On his chapter, The Living Dead. Better this way? I would think so. In thinking about this article, I had two contrasting images. One sounds like a horror flick from the 50s, and the other from a church. But with all due respect to both institutions, that was my frame of reference. Rather, it was what makes us alive and what deadens us. What deadens us is empty forms without substance. A good illustration of this is a film About Schmidt, starring Jack Nicholson. Nicholson plays a man who has lived in various empty forms throughout his life, his career, his marriage, his relationship with his daughter, his approach towards living. Schmidt has just retired, and now he and the missus have bought an RV and are about to travel around the country. She suddenly dies, and he's now left with the question of what has his life been about. Everywhere you look in this film, people are living in empty forms. They can't see how they are bound by convention, trapped by cliché, imprisoned by mindless repetition. This film has struck a chord in pulp culture, partly because it struck close to home for a lot of people. In the film, Schmidt is redeemed by something he does that is not part of the mindless forms he has performed throughout his life. He sees a public service announcement for a charity that supports starving children around the world. He joins as a subscriber and is assigned to a 6-year-old African boy. He begins to write to him. He pours his heart out to him, describing his life truthfully, its emptiness, frustrations, hypocrisies, and futility. The dramatic climax of the film comes when he is faced with a moment of truth at his daughter's wedding. He hates the man she just married. He hates that his daughter would not listen to his warnings about him. He hates the new in-laws. He hates the powerlessness to save her from the living dead. The wedding speeches are one cliché after another. Then comes his turn to make a speech. We know what he wants to say. He pauses, and then he gives a typical father of the bride speech, full of compliments and praise for the wedding party. He is disgusted with himself and wonders if his life has any redeemable value. But as he arrives home, he receives a letter from a nun who is in charge of the African boy. She writes to him simply, describing the boy's life, telling him that the boy can't read yet and that he has drawn a picture for him. Schmidt looks at it, a child's picture with a man holding hands with a boy. And in that moment, he is touched by what we might call the holiness of life. He moves from the living dead to the holy redeemed. The title of Robert's chapter 6, The Living Dead and the Holy Redeemed. We can fall into traps of deadness. What was once real can become empty form. we can find ourselves little by little becoming numb, mindless, dull, going through the motions, and all the time we might not know we are drifting into such deadness. In the arts, what makes the difference between a live performance and one that is dull, tedious, and lifeless is the degree to which the performers are in touch with the reality of the moment. It was no accident that Lee Strasberg, who created the famous method school of acting, called his theater the living theater. He knew that what makes a theater dead is copying the form of others and losing touch with the reality of that which comes alive in the moment. What makes a theater a living theater is that it is still exploring, inventing, creating, searching, reaching, aspiring, fully in touch with its vision and fully in touch with its reality as it is and as it changes. In the arts, it is common knowledge that form without substance kills the spirit, and no one sets out to create spiritless forms. But the artists are human beings, and they too, their training and profession notwithstanding, can slip into deadening form. It's when they stop reaching for something new, creating something fresh and original, relying on techniques and tricks rather than truth and originality, that the performance becomes dead and empty form. But no matter how dead it can become, there is the impulse for life, regeneration, redemption, and renewal. And this quest makes it rightfully dissatisfied with anything less. It's not the actual forms in our lives that are deadening us. Rather, it is the moments we lose touch with why we are doing what we are doing. A hypnosis, a trance, a state of mindlessness that removes us from reality. It is losing touch with the holiness of life. I use the word holiness here in a sense that each moment is set apart, in the sense that every moment is precious, because every moment is unique and alive with fresh possibilities. Each moment has a potential for renewal by being new. In this essence of the creative process, and why so many creators have more life per square inch than do many other people. They must be in touch with the reality of the moment, the source of their visions, the relationship with life that comes from finding something new, vital, meaningful, real, substantive, and transcendent. Here's an experiment to play for the next few days. Notice all the ways that you follow various forms in your life, the morning patterns, the work patterns, the relationship patterns, and so on. Become aware of these forms. You don't need to change them, but simply focus on the reality behind the form, the original substance. Rather than following form unconsciously, you will come into an awareness of the freedom of choice. You will continue to use the form or not, and that is up to you. The freedom of choice can bring you renewal, and holiness of life can manifest itself within your deepest and truest spirit. What redeemed the Nicholson character in About Schmidt was that he found something meaningful in his life. Another way to say it is that he created something meaningful based on his natural goodness and altruism, his compassion for this African boy. To design your life around what is most deeply meaningful to you is not a small gesture in the broader scheme of things. It is a key to holy redemption that brings new life, new spirit, and new appreciation for the preciousness of life we are given. So I do believe that Mr. Robert Fritz, one of his books, that he is the most incredible critical thinker, creative thinker in America. And I'm trying to bring that to you, but you got to pick up one of the books. His first book, The Path of Least Resistance. His second book, Creating. I believe his third book, The Path of Least Resistance for Managers. I believe his fourth book, Corporate Tides, The Inescapable Laws of Organizational Structure. I believe his next book, my favorite book, Your Life as Art, and then co-written with Bruce Bodekin, The Managerial Moment of Truth. And then I believe Elements. And then I believe Robert's last book, Identity, Why It Doesn't Matter What You Think About Yourself. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope you pick up Elements, the writings of Robert Fritz. I hope you become involved, that you actively participate, that you take action to like, share, comment with your friends, your family, your loved ones. Who do you know that could use a little daily burst from Elements? I hope you choose to participate.